Hello, neighbours and friends. Welcome. This is Faisal Hassan, your member Provincial Parliament for York South Western, joining you again. Another discussion, and also bring your coffee and tea and let us talk about this week's important issues and hear also your concerns. Those who are joining, you're joining Faisal Hassan Facebook page, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also Instagram, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also Twitter, Faisal Hassan NDP. Before I start, I wish to acknowledge at this time the land that we know as York Southwestern is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Japware, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuits, and Métis people. Welcome, folks. Those who are just joining Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, my YouTube, please do so. Welcome, Zainab, and says, hi, Faisal. Welcome. Thank you. And Ayan, welcome as well. And this week was a busy week. And also, I just came from Frontlines that have been celebrating their culinary program, and they had a contest about food contest. They had also celebrity chef, and the also Toronto Sun's a well-known food writer, Rita, and it was a fantastic day there, and many community members have actually organized this to bring it into fruition. And there was also a cultural link there with Merdlene McIntosh and the Frontlines as well, and the also community Western Village Residents Association was also there, and also Toronto 12 Division folks, and also many members of the community came out, and I was happy to join you and say hello. And it was also a delicious food presented by those young men and women who really participated Cultural Links program for culinary program, and that's fantastic. Also, the hub was there also, JJ and Kaltuma, and that was also good to meet also the new manager there, JJ as well there today. And hopefully you're doing well, folks. Once again, welcome. This is Faisal Hassan. You're a member Provincial Parliament. You're joining me, my Instagram, Faisal Hassan NDP, and Twitter, Faisal Hassan NDP, and my Facebook page, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed my YouTube, please do so. And those who are joining us, Gure and Ayan and others on Instagram, welcome. And also welcome Saeed and Zainab and the rest of the folks who are also joining us on Facebook as well. And folks, the principle of universal healthcare has been a source of pride for Canadians for decades. And folks, the father of healthcare is also my hero, Tommy Douglas, who was a premier of Saskatchewan and the leader of the CCF and then the New Democrats, NDP, and has also brought a lot of good things to Canada. And that is also his vision of also universal healthcare, a public healthcare for decades. Caring for fellow neighbors, indeed, of medical care has become part of our national identity, thanks to Tommy Douglas and many folks who have supported his vision across a political spectrum, and that also have become a part of who we are as Canadians. And medical care has become part of our national identity. Unfortunately, for many years, the system has suffered from underinvestment, and cracks were starting to show. And in our own community here in York Southwestern, we had several hospitals, and two of them have been shut down. To be exact, the West Park Healthcare Centre has been a role model to not only Ontario, but much of Canada for its specialization of TB and other, rehabilitation aspect of it. And it has been a fantastic there with also Anne-Marie Malik leadership and also that has also still is here in our community. We know the Church Hospital has been moved to a neighboring riding of York Center, and also the other hospital, Walls Kill and Ingram, has been also closed and demolished. And that was also the legacy of the last 15 years of the Liberal government here in our community. And now we see that our community needs hospitals. We need, of course, West Park Healthcare is here, is specialized, serving not only in our community, but across the province, and some cases coast to coast in their leadership of their specializations in our community. So that's also the legacy of Cutler Wynn and Dalton McGuinty in our own community. Prior to the pandemic, anyone who interacted with our healthcare system will encounter hallway medicine and long wait times. We need to return to properly funded healthcare system in this province. This will be working with federal partners, of course, but it also requires a strong leadership from the province. And that's very important, not the drastic cuts to healthcare that were proposed earlier by this government, but also that has also hurt our communities and many communities across the province. We need to expand service to include, of course, mental health supports, including culturally and language appropriate care. Now we know also the Spanish-speaking care for mental health is also at risk, and we need to also, it's a model program that has worked for the Portuguese speaking and the other language, Mandarin and Cantonese, and also the Spanish speakers. But now the Portuguese program is now threatened to be shut down, and myself and my colleagues, the official opposition, have been fighting on this to make sure that this program stays in the community because it's working. It has been an example to provide services to mental health support. Also, a specific psychiatrist is available there to help the community. And now it's at risk of eliminating altogether, and that is wrong. So including culturally and language appropriate care is essential, folks. Jerry Grossi, welcome. And Jerry has just joined us as well. And also Nelson, welcome. And also Saeed, also welcome. Quickly, I'll take some comments from Saeed, and says, good to see you, Honorable Faisal Hassan, as usual on your live interaction with your constituents every Saturday. We appreciate your commitment and service to the community. Well, thank you, Saeed, for your support, for your support as well. And thank you, folks, for joining as well. We need to expand care to include basic dental care. We also need to recognize the vital importance of vision to one's overall health. Various medical conditions can indirectly affect an individual's eyesight, and to exclude people without private insurance from the care they deserve is a serious gap that we need to fill. I have repeatedly raised this problem with my colleagues at Queen's Park because it is of a great concern to so many residents here in our community of York Southwestern. Health requires eye vision as well, because it's part of our health, of all health. Healthcare is about from head to toe. Our dental care, our eye care, our mental health care, and it is a common sense, folks, to include that as well. The current battle between the government and also the optometrist serves as an indication of the government approach on these issues. On average, OHIP care coverage only 55% of the cost of OHIP insured eye exam, with optometrists covering the rest. As optometrists call on the government for formal negotiation framework, the government is passing the PAC and offering one-time mediation. I have called on the government to immediately commit to legally binding formal negotiations to ensure any future OHIP minimum funded at the cost of delivery. As we look forward to a post-COVID recovery, we cannot afford to go reverse. We need to continue to engage with the important stakeholders, to listen to community members and invest in a system that cares for people from herd to toe. And it's very important that we do, folks. Welcome. If you just joined, you're joining Faisal Hassan. You're a member of Provincial Parliament for York Southwest, and you're joining Instagram, Faisal Hassan NDP, and Facebook page, Faisal Hassan NDP, and Twitter, Faisal Hassan NDP, and YouTube. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, please do so quickly. Thank you. And also this week, also Premier Bill Davis passed away, and my thoughts and condolences with his family, his friends, and also everyone in the province of Ontario for our former Premier Bill Davis, who passed away at the age of 92 years old. Premier Davis served for 14 years. And among other achievements, founded community college system and established, of course, rent controls in Ontario. He was greatly respected by individuals across a political spectrum and will be surely missed. And I also add my condolences, sincere condolences for the loss of our former Premier Bill Davis as well this week as well. And I know that also our communities here are also doing so much activities. I'm so pleased to the activity and the vibrancy of our art community here in York Southwest and return to life this summer. Urban Arts is coming off the heels of the successful Culture Shock Community Arts Festival. And they have done also last week, Saturday, and today they have also been celebrating with Culture Link, with their music, with the activities right here at the Western and Lawrence. And if you have time, you'd like to hear those music and activities, it's happening. The Frontlines place and the Urban Arts has been also part of that. So do also the Shakespeare in Action is preparing also for their production of 3T Tempest at Little Avenue Memorial Park. They're coming back also in September as well. And also this afternoon, they were also at the big event at the at the Frontlines, rather, that had also a huge event supporting young people, but also there was also the arts community, 12th Division, the Western Village Resident Association Group, the entire community have come to support Frontlines. So the arts such as the Urban Arts and Shakespeare in Action were also there. Artists have been hit hard during this pandemic, and I am encouraged to see the vibrancy and the excitement of our arts community in action this week and continuing as well in our community. Keep an eye out for future event in our community. In my newsletter as well will be featured those our community section for those activities that's happening in the community with regard to events that is happening in our community. So keep that as well on our newsletter. We send you twice a week to update you what's happening in the community. If you are not receiving them, please subscribe as well. You can get the link through my website, faisalhassan.ca. There you can actually subscribe it and you'll be able to receive it, our newsletter as well. I know also small businesses are also struggling in our community. They have been struggling. The struggles of small businesses continues, and the promises of support or just adding to the stress of small businesses. We know that many businesses are still waiting their support for first round or second round, still haven't received it. They have applied. Some of them have contacted my office, and still we have been waiting a confirmation from the Ontario government to confirm their support in this regard. Our office continues to hear reports of unjustified grant denials from small business support grant program by the Ontario government. And if you feel you have been wrongly denied or have not heard a response regarding your case, please reach out to my office. You can write to me, fhassan-co@ndp.on.ca, or you can telephone my constituency office 416-243-7984. Well, thank you. And please also write the details, and I'll be happy to work on to investigate those issues as well that you have been experiencing with this current government. And hopefully, that we can get some results for you as well. Welcome, Zainab. And affordable childcare. Affordable childcare continues to be a struggle for so many parents, and childcare is expensive in our community. Young families are struggling. Ontario is home to highest childcare costs in the country, and as other provinces unveiled universal affordable plans, Ontario continues to wait. This is a priority for our community, and I'll continue to strongly advocate for widely available and affordable childcare here in our community, because many of you have written to me about the issue of childcare in our community. Sorry about that. I'll just take quickly for the comments and questions from you. Zainab just writes to me and saying that a question. She says that quickly, could you tell us the information about the refugee settlement issues in Canada? And quickly to answer her question, I think the immigration and settlement issues is not a provincial jurisdiction. It's a federal jurisdiction. And my counterpart is Ahmed Hussein. And I think it's appropriate for you to contact his office. You can reach him. I think his email is ahmed.hussein@barrel, barlgca.ca, and his office number is 416-656-2526. There, you'll be able to ask them about anything to do with immigration. It's a federal issue, and it is a federal matter, and I don't deal with that. For us, the provincial, we deal with the integration. When people are settled here in Ontario, that's our responsibility to make sure they integrate, and also they are also part of our community. And also we also ran the provincial nominee program, and that is also the only thing we do, working with the federal government. But when it comes to federal jurisdiction, that is immigration is one of them, and that is the responsibility of the federal MP and the federal jurisdiction in that regard. Well, thank you for your question, for Zainab, for asking a question with regard to immigration in that regard. Also, we know during the pandemic, our community has struggled hard because we have the frontline workers, and those frontline workers in our community have been really championed. They have been heroes, and also they have been struggling with pay as well. And we have recently seen the new letter from the ombudsman confirms that the government is denying personal support workers in residential care facilities pandemic pay, despite Premier's promises to PSWs in residential care homes have been on the front lines on the pandemic, putting their own health at risk to support the whole being of others, and I will continue to advocate for their fair treatment, including a permanent $5 per hour wage increase. They so richly deserve, and I think this is the right thing to do. But I'll reassure you, an NDP government will put this a priority, and my leader Andrea Horvath has proposed this that we should put front and center to support those who have really been our heroes and championships, the ones who actually make things happen during pandemic, deserve our support, and they deserve a living wage that they can also raise their families as well. Well, thank you, folks. Those who are joining, they're joining Faisal Hassan, NDP, and you're a member of provincial parliament for York Southwestern. You are joining me Instagram and also Twitter, and also my page, as well as also my YouTube. And there, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe it as well. Thank you. Quickly, Brandon just joined. Welcome, Brandon. Welcome, Nelson. Welcome, Mizan Iglan as well for joining as well. And also Amira Mohammed, welcome as well. Brandon puts a question quickly and says, with the federal election calling happening tomorrow, do you think that it's a good idea to go to the polls in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic? That's a very good question, Brandon. And I thank you for your question. It's very unfortunate that this current government, Trudeau Liberals, now they don't want to work with the current government. They don't want to work current parliament. You see, the parliament is working fine. They have been working with other parties at the legislature, and it has been working fine. In the middle of a pandemic, to call an election is not a good idea, and this is what people are really telling me, and this is also what Brandon is asking this afternoon. It's not a good idea, Brandon, and I do believe that what they are looking for, Brandon, here, Justin Trudeau and his Liberals, is just power. They want to have a majority instead of working with others, making things happen for our community. Delivering the programs they ran for the election last time, 2019, when they were running, they were putting fears of people. People were not able to elect people they want to elect. That was then. Now we have a minority government that is functioning fine. Instead of working with them, they don't want to work with them. They just want a majority government. And now, tomorrow they might be going to the Governor General and calling it an election. But to me, this is the wrong decision, and I think people will decide, because in the middle of an election, it's not a good idea. It's a horrible idea to ask people, well, they're struggling. They don't need an election. They could even continue working until 2023. Because other political parties are saying we can work with this government, holding them accountable, but also making sure that the parliament works for the people. And that's exactly what it is. But what Justin Trudeau Liberals are looking for, Brandon, is to have a majority government, because they believe that the polls is telling them they could have a majority government. And that's why, if we go to election tomorrow, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And that is not right. Since the parliament is working for the people, why is needed an election? You can do it when we come out of the pandemic. I know that others have said there have been other elections was happening in the middle of the elections here and there. But I think now there's also fear of a fourth wave that is coming. And that is also the warnings of the science. The experts are telling us, and it's not a good idea This is not right, Brandon, and I think it's wrong. But hopefully, it is the people who will decide about whether they will give them a majority government or defeat them, and that's what beauty about our democracy, And I will simply say that, and many people have told me this. It is not the right time to have an election now, because we are in the middle of a pandemic. Yes, there have been some positive things, but now there's warnings of a fourth wave happening. So the only reason they're doing it, Brandon, is just a power. That's all they care about, rather than putting people first and delivering, results for the people. And we have seen the same stories of Cutland Wynne and Dalton McGuinty before here in the provincial the last 15 years as well. But currently, this is not a good idea at all. Thank you for the question. And Frank, welcome. And Frank says, Brandon Machado, maybe they should work with the opposition instead of calling an election. I agree, Frank. And it is important that if the other parties are working with you, if the parliament is working and it's in a minority government, working better than a majority government, then why don't you work with others, with other parties, other parties that are basically delivering results for their constituencies? And I think that is a good idea, working with the opposition, working with other parties is the right thing to do. And I think simply because somebody on the polls are telling them they can get a majority, but I don't think that's it. The people will decide. Absolutely. And for me, I don't take people for granted. I don't rely on polls. I work hard to earn the trust and confidence of our constituency every day. That's why I'm here, joining you every Saturday from 3 to 4 to hear your concerns and also answer some of your questions as well. Well, thank you for joining, and thank you for your questions as well. And folks, many times, many of you have been calling about online and phone scam. That has been people calling you with all sort of pretending to be CRA and others. Please watch out. And it has been brought to my attention that there has been an increase in efforts to defraud our community members, often targeting seniors and also newcomers as well. Fraudulent misquandering as a trusted entity such as a bank or from the CRA, trick victims into providing a private user data, including log credentials, social insurance numbers, and credit card numbers. Please be aware and talk to loved ones about ways to protect yourself. Make sure you protect yourself from these fraudulent folks that are pretending. Many of them are not from Canada, they're calling from overseas. And this is also a problem that we need the federal government to protect our seniors and our community here. It's very important. Thank you. Well, thank you. This is Faisal Hassan, you're a member of Provincial Parliament, joining you every Saturday from 3 to 4. You're joining my Instagram, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also Facebook page, Faisal Hassan NDP, and Twitter, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also my YouTube. Folks, this week, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a troubling report on the urgent need for action to protect planet from a catastrophic future. As we celebrate International Youth Day this week, and that was also, we celebrated this week as well, the desire to move quickly is heightened, folks. The next generation deserves the same beauty, forests, farmland, and clean water, clean air we have all benefited from for generations. If we are to preserve a healthy planet and secure the future for our youth, we must follow their lead and heed the warning of our climate scientists now. Extreme weather events are becoming increasingly common in many parts of the world and also in our community. And in response, the government chooses to attack conservation authorities. We've seen it at Queen's Park. Instead of investing resources to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, they're fighting efforts to reduce emissions in court, wasting taxpayer dollars in the process. Climate change is the biggest threat facing the world today and has been for some time. It is real, folks, friends, neighbors, and brothers and sisters. Unfortunately, decades of government inaction have led us to the point of urgency. No more excuses. We must start on board an ambitious plan to tackle the climate crisis, and we must do so now. Thankfully, there is a path forward. We can create jobs and open economic opportunities. We can do so in a way that addresses the overlapping crisis of racial injustice and wealth inequality. In failing to address the urgency of climate change, our government is turning its back on the problem and ignoring the immense opportunity it presents. The world must change to adapt to the new reality and avoid the worst outcomes, and Ontario should be positioning itself to benefit from the economic opportunity. Well, folks, my leader, Andy Horvath, the official opposition leader, has released recently a climate plan that meets the challenges of our time and present the types of bold proposals we need to achieve our goals. It calls for reduction GHG emissions of 50% below 2005 levels by 2030 and achieves net zero emissions by 2050. It calls for improvements in transportation, such as electrifying municipal transit fleets by 2040 and accelerating GO and Up Express electrification. Includes a world-leading retrofit program and net zero standards on all new buildings by 2030. The resulting jobs will open opportunity for marginalized communities and those typically excluded from skilled trades, including women, racialized people, and indigenous peoples. The time to act is now, and I know that York Southwestern is prepared to take the bold steps required and look forward to your support. And I know that the Up Express, the trains that are going through in our community, is still diesel. And remember 2014, the general election, when Kathleen Wynne Liberals have been campaigning through the corridor saying that they're going to electrify now. That promise was broken again. And we have seen that again and again. With Dalton McGuinty, the last 15 years, the trains going through our community still is diesel. And myself and my colleagues from Parkdale High Park, Devonport, and Harbour River Black Creek, we have put together a Clean Trains Now bill that we want to electrify clean trains now. And this government also can also create more stops, to Up Express and also fare integration. If you are using TTC, you should be able to jump in Up Express and take you to the airport. That's simple. It's very important that can be done, and we are happy to respond to that, and we are hoping forward to when we return in September 13 to debate about it. It's very important as well. Well, quickly, I'll take a question from Frank. Says, hey Faisal, thank you for having this weekly discussions. I heard that we are now entering a fourth wave of COVID-19. Do you think that we need a permanent 24/7 vaccination site in New York Southwestern? I believe so. Well, thank you, Frank, for the question and the comments as well. It's very important, we have been fighting on this, and it took 7 months for us to get a permanent testing facility in our community. That took us 7 months. To this day, we do not have a permanent vaccine location. We have, though, had many pop-ups, and thanks to the West Park Healthcare Center, Humber River Hospital, as well as also Women's Health College Hospital, College Hospital as well, and also many community partners such as the Black Creek Community Health, the Unison, Jane Hub, and also the Community Hub at 1764 that are to this day are still doing COVID vaccines in our community. But definitely, as my leader has already called last mile strategy, we need to reach people where they are. So that we provide them education, we provide them expertise, providing them that knowledge, and also making sure also we have those 24 permanent vaccine facilities. To this day, in our community, we don't have it, and that is a shame. Well, Black Lives Matter just joined from Instagram. Welcome and thank you for your advocacy, for your social justice in our community, and thank you for standing up for the systemic discrimination as well in systems in all levels. And we need a lot of work to do, and I'm proud to work with you. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. I usually meet the community every Saturday from 3 to 4 to hear their concerns, their comments, and also take some of their questions as well. Well, we need, yes, I agree, Frank, we need a permanent vaccine facility. Putting resources here is very important, and also last mile strategy, as my leader Andrea Horvath calls it. We need to do it to make sure that people are provided access to vaccines, rather than putting also a barrier. We also know that also the Humber River Hospital have also Downsview Arena open 24/7 now, but it is not 24 hours. 7 days it's open until I believe 6 p.m. because many members of the community, they work shifts, late hours, and some of them weekdays, weeknights, and also they work also nights and so on. So we need to provide them flexibility for a permanent vaccine. And this should be last mile strategy to get through people, get their vaccines. And we're happy to work with the Humber River Hospital, West Park Healthcare Center, and also Women's Hospital, Women's College Hospital, and the community partners such as the Western Mount Dennis Community Place Hub at 1765, and also Unison Jane Hub here in our community, and also Black Creek Healthcare, Community Healthcare, who has been also doing a lot of vaccines and also COVID testings in our community. And we thank them also for their work as well. Thank you. Michael Anthony, welcome as well. Michael Anthony just joined and says, I'm just coming on now, so I apologize if this has already been answered. What do you make of vaccine passport as well as the mandatory vaccine of teachers? Well, that's a very good question, Michael. And I do believe that we should always rely on science and also public health authorities on this, because it's a very important. A priority should be the public health, and that is also where I believe we should rely on medical scientists and also public health and science, based on science when it comes to education workers and also teachers as well. But also, I do believe also the issue of the federal government is talking about vaccine passport, but also I'm also worried about discrimination. We have seen many people have been discriminated in airports and also in port of entry simply because of who they are, and that has happened in the history of our country, and also has happened in many cases. Young kids at the age of 2, 6, and 10 has been also profiled and also prevented to travel with their families. So if that is also something I'm concerned about, if this becomes kind of a discriminatory method later on. But I believe, Michael Anthony, that we should should be based on science, and also public health priorities when it comes to vaccinations with teachers and also education workers, with regards to also vaccine passport. And that's also something the federal government has been talking about lately. And I think we have seen also people, especially the Muslim community, who has been also targeted and discriminated because of who they are, and being profiled and put their names into prevented to travel, even vacation, and that also something I'm also concerned about. Discrimination might happen with that kind of issue with regards to vaccine passport. Quickly, Michael says the government of Toronto is also asking vaccine passport, and he continues, says the question is, which science do we listen to? And very good question. I think the question of the municipal government, I think you should speak to Francis Nanziata with regard to the on the city hall issues. But the question of which science do we listen is a very good question. My answer is all sciences, all the authorities of the science, we should listen. We have to believe science based on, science, and also public health priorities. And that, I think, should be also inclusive, Michael. And I do believe that's an important that we leave this to the scientists, and also based on also public health priorities. But also my concern also is that we have seen history of discrimination in our country, on all levels of government. So also we have to concern about discrimination, people being targeted. And that's also is one of the things I believe we should be also cautious about when it comes to these kinds of policies. But also I do believe when it comes to public health, when it comes to the health issues, we have to rely on science and also public health priorities. And to that, I'm supportive of their recommendations with regard to the vaccines. And I can also tell you, I have gotten my both vaccines. And also I do believe also, as my leader believes, that we should educate people. A last mile strategy is also important, that we provide people the knowledge and also the information so that they make those decisions for them to get the vaccines. And I've already gotten mine, and I do believe that also others also will get theirs as well. Well, thank you, Michael. I do appreciate, yes, you're right. We have to also listen, dissent, the view of others who have different views than us. And that's also important to safeguard the rights of everyone. And that's also very important, Michael, that we do as a community. Okay. Well, thank you for your question. And folks, if you just joined, you're joining Faisal Hassan, NDP. You're a member provincial parliament. Instagram, Faisal Hassan, NDP. Twitter, Faisal Hassan, NDP. And also Facebook, Faisal Hassan, NDP. And YouTube, you're also joining. You can also subscribe to YouTube as well. Welcome. Just give me a minute quickly. Hi, Michael also says quickly, I think Michael has a lot of questions. Michael says, I guess what I'm getting it is as lawmaker, when the science body disagrees, it is an issue. What do you do? He continues his question. Thank you for taking my question. Well, that's a very good question. Folks, Michael is asking us again, um, is asking, I am getting, what I am getting, it is as a lawmaker, when the science body disagrees, it is an issue. What do we do? Well, that's a very important. We need to know if the science are disagreeing. We have to know. The public has to know, Michael, and that has to be transparent. Because we legislators, we are not a scientist. Myself, I'm not a scientist, but we are looking every issues. Of course, the safety of the public is important with public health priorities. It's also important that also the scientists speak their minds so that we know what's happening, so that then we consider those kinds of considerations. I do believe that's important. But thank you, Michael, for your participating, and that's also important that the community gets involved, contributes. That way, for your opinion, it's also needed as well. I thank you for joining us this afternoon and asking me your questions. I would like to welcome Stephen Manse, a young man who is active in our community, who have done so much. We are so proud, Stephen Mense, for joining us. He's joining us Instagram. He's also the Youth Council, City Toronto's Youth Council there as well, who's doing a fantastic job and also giving young people a voice in our community. Thank you. Well, Brandon says, since today's COVID-19 cases are at 578 cases, do you think that the province of Ontario will enter another lockdown? Well, thank you. That's a very good question. Thank you, Brandon. And I do believe that, things is improving. Things are moving forward in the right direction. And I do believe the right thing to do is to continue to provide resources at the moment, provide basic days, to provide small, lower classes, and making sure also we protect also our students. But I do believe that we have to make sure that we don't go another lockdown again. People have struggle. There's so much issues people have going through, mental issues. They're going through all sorts of things. But again, we should also, when we talk about lockdowns, Brandon, we should rely on also public health and the science as well. But I don't think it's a good idea to go to a lockdown at the moment, because a lot of people have gotten their vaccines. People are really doing the right things. I have also got my vaccines. Many of you have gotten. We have been doing, getting together and also taking action, bringing the community together and bringing vaccines into their homes. But still we need, as my leader says, we need last mile strategy. So if we continue to reach the fourth stage, where we expected to get certain numbers of vaccinated people, what we need to do is to get those who have not gotten their vaccines to actually get it. Then we can hopefully avoid any lockdowns. That would be horrible, Brandon. If we go back another lockdown, people have struggled and they have suffered so much, to be honest with you. And hopefully, by listening to the public health guidelines, and also making sure that they continue to get those who haven't gotten their vaccines, then hopefully we'll get quickly out of this. But definitely we will be listening to the public health authorities based on science, based on also public health priorities with regards to those decisions. Well, thank you, folks, those who are joining me this afternoon. This is Faisal Hassan, your member, Provincial Parliament, and I join you every Saturday from 3 to 4 to hear your concerns and also answer some of your questions as well. Those who are joining Instagram, you're joining Faisal Hassan NDP, and those joining also Facebook, you're joining Faisal Hassan NDP, and also Twitter, Faisal Hassan NDP, and also YouTube. If you haven't subscribed my YouTube, please also subscribe it. And I know that the new report on the climate change by the IPCC in what is being called a Code Red for Humanity. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has released, as I said earlier, a report indicating that we are approaching a runaway global warming and that there is already enough carbon in the atmosphere to guarantee climate disruption for decades. It is an in-depth and comprehensive report, and it stresses the urgency required to stave off more catastrophic effects to our planet. And it's very important that we act. And Ontario are already suffering the disastrous effect of climate change. Each year, we are seeing more intense and frequent wildfires, tornadoes, and floods that destroy people's homes and communities. In our own community here, when it rains hard. And we know many communities here, their houses are flooded. And we have been advocating for immediate relief and also improvement of green infrastructure, making sure that there is an infrastructure investment. And when those investment happens, also we need to follow it up that it is a proper work is done. We have seen in many cases when this is happening in our community, it is not dealt proper. So the problem happens again and again and again. So cutting corners is also being identified. And my party and my leader, the official opposition, a climate plan is the boldest, the strongest climate plan Ontario's ever had. It commits to comprehensive strategy to make Ontario net zero by 2050 and to also orchestrate a just transition to a clean economy, including the creation of 100,000 permanent full-time jobs created over the 8 years from ambitious building retrofit program, and up to 1 million jobs resulting from the full platform. The ICC is telling us that we are running out of time. It is absolutely critical that Ford Conservatives start to implement NDP's climate plan and finally get serious about climate change instead of continuing to make cuts that make climate crisis. We need to put to support this quickly. If elected, the Ontario NDP government would immediately get to work on achieving net zero emissions in Ontario and transitioning to a clean economy in a way that will create jobs and makes sure no one is left behind by creating hope, opportunity, justice, and jobs. The IBC report shows that the impact of climate change is already being felt around the world, but can be slowed if action is taken to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We need to bring Ontario to net zero emissions, reducing Ontario's GHG emissions by at least 50% below 2005 levels by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by 2050 targets consistent with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the most ambitious aspects of Paris Agreement. Enshrined our GH reduction targets and interim targets into law using a carbon budgeting process to ensure 2030 and 2050 targets are met, restoring the powers of Environmental Commission of Ontario, a new equitable cap and trade system to replace the federal carbon backstops, change how we move to transform transportation, and electricity, the GO train network on accelerated timeline, fund municipal transit systems to 50% of their net operating costs and enable immediate service improvement, more transit routes, and increased ridership with more affordable fares. Electrify all municipal transit fleets by 2040. Implement Ontario's first comprehensive zero emissions vehicle strategy. Change how we build retrofit program, a leading building retrofit program to improve energy efficiency, retrofit 5% of Ontario's buildings per year. By 2030, all newly built public, residential, and commercial buildings will conform to net zero standards. Guarantee jobs, training and support for next generation of workers, as well as workers of all stages of their career, funding and fast-tracking workers with industry experience. New economy ran recruitment centers for skilled trades, job training programs, specifically in colleges and training institutes in Northern Ontario. A specific program focus on training people from marginalized communities and those typically excluded from skilled trades, including women, racialized people, and Indigenous people. Establish Ontario's first youth climate crops to give hope and opportunity for young people. Transition the electricity supply, bringing emissions from electricity to 2017 levels and achieving zero emissions by 2030. Expand hydro capacity, increase intermittent renewables, including wind and solar power, create more grid and scale storage, increase rooftop solar capacity on buildings and major grid interconnection with Quebec and Manitoba to enable electricity imports, protect water and green spaces, increase protection of Ontario parks and expand access to green spaces, develop a provincial food strategy and provincial water strategy, cut down waste, develop a robust and comprehensive waste diversion strategy for public sector, protect people's health, support for accessible and culturally relevant public health campaigns to ensure all Ontarians have accurate, up-to-date information about climate crisis and health risks associated with air, water pollution. Foster climate change resilient, restore funding and power to conservation authorities, plant 1 million trees by 2030, expand the green belt, folks. So this is our plan, and an NDP government will implement it, and we will create hope, justice, and also jobs and opportunities, not only our community here in York Southwestern, but every community across Ontario. Well, folks, those who have joined today, I want to thank you. And those who have asked questions also, I want to thank them. As well, also those who have joined us from Instagram, and also those who joined us also on Twitter and Facebook and also YouTube. Well, quickly, Sagal here on Instagram is asking a quick question. Canadian government start to take refugee around the world, so why you wouldn't help Somali refugees? That's a very good question, Sagal, and definitely we would like to help every refugees across the world, and I think America usually does. Give me your poor, you're most vulnerable, and Canada is saying give us the well-to-do people. And I think it's a time that we also champion and support support those who are also weaker and need our support and our humanitarian compassion and caring as well. And I think also, Segal, I've also answered this question. This is also a federal question. Immigration comes under a federal jurisdiction, and you should be directing those questions to the federal member of parliament, and his name is Ahmed Hussein. His office is located also in the community, and you can reach him 416-656-2526. Well, thank you. That's it, folks. My time is up, and thank you again for joining me. And I look forward to speaking to you again next week, the same time, Saturday from 3 to 4. Thank you again. This is Faisal Hassan, your member provincial parliament. Until then, goodbye.